Hi, I'm Jeanette Roche. This is Bridge City News. Here are some of the top stories we've been following. Wildfires in Manitoba have the city of Flin Flon on verge of evacuation, while Saskatchewan remains under a fire ban. Close to 2,000 people were evacuated Tuesday from communities in that province. Canada Post and the union representing its workers head back to the bargaining table today. And the Israeli Prime Minister announces the death of a senior Hamas leader, the brother of one of the masterminds of the October 7th attack on Israel.
Your nation, your province, your southern Alberta. From the heart of Lethbridge, it's Bridge City News with Jeanette Roche.
Thanks so much for joining us. Widespread wildfires in Manitoba have the city of Flin Flon on evacuation alert. Officials told the city's roughly 5,000 residents last night to be ready to flee at a moment's notice. Premier Wab Kinew reiterated that today.
If you're in Flin Flon, we're asking you to prepare for a potential evacuation. On the city's Facebook page, you can see information about how to get ready, and if the order comes, we're asking you to listen. For Manitobans and the rest of the province, now is the time to get ready to support. The hotels are already full across Manitoba, and so we're going to be turning to other folks in the community, not necessarily private residences, but companies and communities across the province to potentially open your doors. If we have to move a community of 6,000 people, thereabouts, then we are going to be turning to people for help.
The fire near Flin Flon began in Saskatchewan and crossed over the Manitoba border. Crews struggled to fight the blaze, and water bombers had to be grounded because of a drone flying in the area. Northern Saskatchewan remains under a fire ban as officials say conditions there are tinder dry. The ban was imposed after about 2,000 people were evacuated Tuesday from the communities of Pelican Narrows and Hall Lake. Officials say nearly all wildfires so far in Saskatchewan have been caused by people. The Weather Network is putting out its seasonal forecast for the summer, and for much of the country, you can sum it up in 2 words: sunny and hot. Meteorologist Doug Gilham says warmer than normal summer temperatures are expected across most of Canada, but too much of a good thing could increase the risk of wildfires and drought.
I think most people are going to be happy when they see the forecast initially. I mean, people are longing for sunshine. They're longing for warm temperatures. And this forecast has an abundance of both. However, I think this summer is also going to highlight the fact that you can get too much of a good thing. And so while we're forecasting warmer than normal temperatures across most of the country, we are concerned about the amount of heat that we will see, especially across Western Canada. Concern there for severe heat, extended heat waves, and although we all want sunshine, too much sunshine can lead to drought conditions. You know, we don't like the rainy days, but we need the rain, and we are concerned about below normal precipitation across most of Western Canada. So that has implications for agriculture, for the risk for wildfires, smoke and air quality. Now, across Eastern Canada, we do expect, from Ontario to the Great Lakes to Atlantic Canada, warmer than normal temperatures, but a lot of that's going to be due to nighttime temperatures. We expect higher humidity, more muggy conditions, less severe heat, but a higher risk for thunderstorms. And again, while we don't like to see rain in the summer, we need to see rain. We're going to see more of that from the Great Lakes to Atlantic Canada. And probably, unfortunately, if it rains on the weekend, nobody's happy about that. And a higher risk for storms. Of course, that's the negative side as well. So lots of good news this summer, but some disclaimers as well, in that this summer can have some difficulties that come with extreme heat and not enough rain in parts of the country and stormy weather in other parts of the country.
Gilham says with no dominant global weather patterns like El Nino or La Nina, the sun becomes the default driver, and that often means widespread heat over the interior of North America. Canada Post and the union representing 55,000 of its workers were headed back to the bargaining table today. The Canadian Union of Postal Workers says the Crown Corporation plans to respond to proposals the union presented on a Sunday. The union has been in a strike position since Friday, but instead chose an overtime ban. Key issues in the labor dispute include wages and other forms of compensation, as well as the potential for more part-time staff and weekend delivery. 343 members of Parliament were in their seats in the House of Commons today for the first question period of the new session. It's also Prime Minister Mark Carney's first time in the House as an elected official. Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre was not in the House, having lost his Ottawa seat in the election. He's hoping to return following a by-election in Alberta. In the House, opposition leader Andrew Scheer fired this volley at Carney.
Since the election, Canadians have been inundated with grand rhetoric and pretty speeches from this Liberal Party, but they are still suffering under all those policies. Household debt up at record levels, number of people who can't pay their mortgages increasing, food bank use continuing to rise. Now TD Bank is forecasting a recession with hundreds of thousands of lost jobs. The PM said undoing the damage of the last 10 years would require great speed, but he's not going to table a budget for 6 months. If he's the man with the plan and the guy you hire in a crisis, why won't he table a budget before he goes on summer vacation?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I understand the member of the opposition is very busy, didn't have a chance to study closely the 100-day plan of the former member from Ottawa, Carleton, which did not include a budget. Our plan includes legislating. Our plan includes legislating for one Canadian economy and nation-building projects immediately to grow this economy, and we expect the support from all in this House.
The federal defense minister says Ottawa will quickly get to work rebuilding Canada's military capacity. David McGuinty spoke at a defense industry trade show in the nation's capital a day after the Liberal government signaled in its throne speech that Canada plans to join a major European defense procurement pact. McGuinty says joining Rearm Europe will give Canada access to new opportunities in the continent's $1.25 trillion defense marketplace.
In previous engagements with national defence and industry, many of you have raised concerns about friction points, timelines, and the need for clear and consistent guidance. I want to reassure you, your comments have been heard. Our forthcoming defence industrial strategy will put your insights into action. If we get it wrong, tell us. If we get it right, tell us. We'll build a secure, resilient industrial base that supports long-term defence goals. Canada has planned to triple defence spending from 2014 levels by 2030. But your government is moving to accelerate this. So stay tuned.
Canada's plan to meet NATO defense spending targets by 2030 could be in trouble, though. NATO's Secretary General this week said the 2% benchmark would likely be raised to 5% at the next Leaders' Summit at the end of June. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu says Israel has killed a senior Hamas leader.
חיסלנו עשרות אלפי מחבלים, חיסלנו את דף, הנייה, יחיא סנואר ומוחמד סנואר.
Speaking before Parliament today, Netanyahu confirmed Mohammed Sinwar's death in a recent airstrike in the Gaza Strip. Mohammed is the brother of Yahya Sinwar, the Hamas leader and one of the masterminds of the October 7th attack. Yahya was killed by Israeli forces last year. And in Ottawa today, a group of Canadian doctors who just returned from Gaza told their first-hand accounts of the ongoing bloodshed there. They are part of a group called Doctors Against Genocide and are demanding an end to the conflict.
We've been there. We are the eyewitnesses to this genocide. We are telling the truth. And yes, IDF forces are lying to you. Innocent people are being killed in mass numbers, from paramedics to doctors and even children. Gaza currently has the highest amount of child amputees per capita in the world. This never happens. It does not happen unless you deliberately target innocent civilians. To our politicians, please have the courage to say the words, Israel is committing a genocide. These children who have died at least deserve this justice. Impose a two-way arms embargo. And let me end with this. There is no moral difference between killing children in chambers or by burning them alive in their sleep. Both are genocide. I understand that. Both are evil and both demand justice.
A similar event was held in Washington, D.C. today with Doctors Against Genocide urging the Senate to take action to end the war in Gaza. Lethbridge City Council has approved a new incentive for business in certain sectors looking to invest in the city. The Business Development Expansion and Retention Incentive Program will award businesses in agriculture, trade and logistics, and alternate and renewable energy. Those that spent over $2 million will receive a grant tied to property taxes that will cover incremental increases in their investments. Mayor Blaine Higgins said that he brought the resolution forward last year after hearing from business owners looking to come into Lethbridge, and this will make it easier for them to invest in the city.
My statement has always been we're open for business, and so in order to do that, we need to be competitive with some of the other communities that maybe these folks have reached out to. So it's really something that is will incentivize folks to expand their business in town or new business to come to town, and so we found that to be just extremely beneficial. I'm glad to see where we're at now. One thing is we did have similar programs in our downtown core, but we heard loud and clear that this has to be something that's available for the community as a whole, not just in the downtown core. And so I think that's an exciting part about this. These new incentives are that they are community-wide.
The rates that the grants will cover tax increases will begin at 100% coverage in the first year and taper to 50% by year 5. Also approved at Council today, the Lethbridge District exhibition will now be split into 2 organizations. As previously reported on BCN, it will consist of the Lethbridge Ag Society and Events Co., who will organize events held at the Agri-Food Hub and Trade Center. Hagan adds that this will help ease the burden from the city in light of the financial challenges that came from the exhibition.
I think it's a smart thing. This is, again, comes from recommendations of consultants, and so that we've been working with, and so it's I'm looking forward to what the future brings and finding even more cost savings at that facility, because we know it's been a challenge over these past couple of years with what's happened, and so I really think that making these decisions and having Deloitte, the group that was hired to help us through this process, it's going the right direction, so we're pretty happy about that.
The new Ag Society is now eligible to receive provincial grants annually to the tune of $550,000. Operations at the Agri-Food Hub and Trade Center cost $4 million annually. The Chinook Regional Hospital has received the largest community donation in its history. The Jack Addy Cancer Center will receive a $2.9 million donation from the late Bruce and Edna Moffat, a local couple who supported the hospital for decades before passing. The funds will go towards a new linear accelerator for cancer treatment, which is on track to be installed by next year.
It is so exciting and so humbling. This level of support from the community, $2.9 million investing in cancer care to further improve the care that we provide here at the Jack Addy Cancer Center, is really amazing. When we opened this cancer center 15 years ago, we installed 2 linear accelerators, and you can imagine over 15 years the technology has changed a great deal. So this funding is going towards a new linear accelerator with enhanced technology, new imaging, new treatment that allows us to be even more precise. It is state-of-the-art. This equipment now exists in Edmonton and in Calgary, but it is the first of our expansion sites that will have this particular new unit with the technology that it has. That means we can treat exactly what we want to treat, nothing more. We can treat that to a dose in such a way that we really improve the opportunities for patients to survive their cancer and to minimize the impact and side effects of that cancer.
The Jack Addy Cancer Center treats around 900 patients per year from across southern Alberta. Alberta Health Services has issued a warning about the water in Writing on Stone Provincial Park southeast of Lethbridge. Due to elevated levels of fecal bacteria currently present in the water, AHS is advising the public not to swim or wade at the beach area, effective immediately. The fecal bacteria was found in the water sample taken from the Milk River. AHS says at current levels, gastrointestinal illness may result from ingestion of the water at this beach. Also, there is the possibility of skin, ear, and eye infections. AHS environmental public health officers will continue to monitor the water at Writing on Stone Provincial Park, but the advisory is in effect until further notice. Lethbridge police will be beefing up traffic enforcement in the coming months. Last weekend, police handed out 46 traffic violations and arrested an impaired driver as part of an ongoing enforcement project that will continue throughout the summer. This type of targeted operation was first initiated in 2022 to address issues like excessive vehicle noise, racing, and stunting. Police are reminding drivers there will be zero tolerance for offenses and contraventions under the Traffic Safety Act, and vehicle equipment regulations will result in tickets. And if you're a repeat offender with outstanding warrants or tickets, you may be subject to a seizure of your license plate, your vehicle registration, and potentially having your vehicle towed. Lethbridge Polytechnic hosted a gathering of junior high school students from across southern Alberta for a friendly engineering competition called Wind Rally. Students in teams crafted small-scale vehicles that can be propelled by wind source using a gear or pulley system to carry a small load of marbles. They had to build them in a set amount of time before racing against other groups. The Southern Alberta Collegiate Institute organized the event in order to provide students with opportunities to explore careers in sectors essential to the regional economy. Lovers of film, art, and music will be excited to hear what New West Theatre has planned for its 2025-26 season. Beginning August the 7th, its shows will take audiences back in time with music, remixed decades, stories of mystery and mischief, as well as some comedy.
This is a show that will take audiences on a journey through the musical eras of the past. This is an electrifying sequel to our 2022 hit show Decades that shines a spotlight on the iconic sounds of the decades. It is Decades Remix, running August 27th through 23rd. We're pleased to present a play that invites you to step into a world of mystery and mischief in a comedic romp as murder and blackmail unfold over a sinister dinner party. Just in time for the Christmas holidays, we're pleased to present a holiday review that will let you rock around the Christmas tree. It's the ultimate rock and roll holiday party and a sleigh load of fun that you and your family won't forget. For the concerts and all of our main stage shows, all performances are in the Yates Theatre. Subscriptions and single tickets are on sale now.
Sounds like fun. You can get your tickets by visiting newwesttheatre.com. The Edmonton Oilers are going to be without one of their key players for the rest of the playoffs. Coach Chris Knobloch confirming today that Zach Hyman is undergoing surgery for what Knobloch called an upper body injury and likely won't return this season.
You look at what he's done last 2 years in the playoffs. Last year, throughout the season, he scored about 70 goals and numerous big, important goals in the playoffs. And this year, scoring key goals, but the physical department, how many hits he had, and his two-way play was tremendous. And, now that we're going to be missing him, we're going to need other guys to step up.
Hyman left Tuesday's game in the first period after taking what appeared to be a hit to the shoulder. He did not return. The Oilers went on to beat Dallas 4-1 and take a 3-1 lead in the best of 7 Western Conference final. Game 5 is Thursday night. Tonight, the Carolina Hurricanes will try to stay alive as they take on Florida in Game 5 of the Eastern Conference final. They trail the Panthers in the best of 7, 3-1. Well, it was a lovely summer-like day out there, reaching a high of 26, and that trend continues with some even warmer days ahead. I'll be right back with the full weather forecast. Well, welcome back. A gorgeous warm day today with clear skies tonight and no wind either. But Thursday, starting out sunny, could see a bit of sun and cloud by the afternoon, and then by the evening there a risk of a thunderstorm. But looking at a high of 32 degrees, so that is very, very hot there, and it's going to continue. So we're seeing a high of 28 on Friday, clear skies, up to 31 Saturday with beautiful sunshine. Sunday looking at a high of 27, mix of sun and cloud. Now that the rain could begin on Sunday evening. We're seeing a 60% chance, and then 70% chance of rain on Monday, high of only 16, and then 40% chance of showers expected on Tuesday with a high of only 19. So we're seeing those high highs and then down to the teens, but still remaining in the average zone for those teen days. But other than that, we're well above average. So the average high for this time of year, 20 degrees, average low of 7 degrees. 31 was our record high on this day back in 1986, and in 1921 and again in 1947 we saw the record low on this date, which was -4. 5:32 is when the sun rose this morning. Sun set this evening at 9:26. As we're seeing 15 hours, 54 minutes of daylight, 2 minutes longer than we saw yesterday. Okay, on the west coast tomorrow, seeing some showers clearing up in the morning. 21 for the high there in Victoria, 19 in Vancouver. Same thing, showers clearing up by noon and then clearing. Edmonton sitting at 29 degrees tomorrow, mix of sun and cloud. Calgary under an extreme heat warning, 30 degrees expected tomorrow. Starting out sunny, seeing increasing clouds throughout the day. By the afternoon, could see a chance of showers and even a risk of thunderstorms by a late day. Looking to the rest of the Prairies, seeing mainly sunny and hazy conditions throughout that whole region there. Saskatoon, 30 degrees, 28 in Regina, and high of 29 in Winnipeg. So very warm also as they're looking at those wildfire conditions there. To the central part of the country now, Toronto sitting at 19, could see chance of showers or drizzle. Showers expected as well in Ottawa, high of 19 as well, and same thing in Montreal. We got periods of rain throughout the day, 19 expected there in Montreal as well. Looking to the east coast now, Maritimes, 27 for the high in Fredericton. Fredericton could also see a little bit of everything. Sunshine in the morning, starting to get more partly cloudy by the afternoon. By late day, looking at a risk of a thunderstorm and chance of showers. Clear skies though in Halifax, high 27 there. Sunshine in Charlottetown, 26 for the high and high of 21 degrees in St. John's with the beautiful sunny days. There you have it. That is your forecast. WestJet's CEO says reducing costs to the airline industry would help foster national unity. Alexis von Hansbroek told a Calgary business audience the federal government should not treat air travel as a luxury in a country as big as Canada. He questions why passenger rail and ferries get federal support while the government imposes costs on the airline industry that are passed along to consumers. His comments follow calls from several business leaders to reduce internal trade barriers as the U.S. becomes an increasingly unreliable trading partner. A new report says the annual levy charged to Alberta oil companies to fund the cleanup of orphaned wells is too low. The report by former University of Calgary public interest law clinic lawyer Drew Uchuk says this year's levy rate will cause an estimated funding shortfall of more than $1 billion. Uchuk says it means funding for Alberta's orphan well problem is more than a decade behind, and it will only get worse unless the levy is raised. The Orphan Well Association says it has more than 3,700 wells on its books that need to be decommissioned and reclaimed. Now here's a look at today's markets.
The TSX was up 14 points on the day to finish at 26,283. The Dow was down 244 points to 42,098. The S&P 500 was down 32 to 5888. And the Nasdaq was down 98 points to finish at 19,100. West Texas Intermediate oil was up 81 cents to 61.88 U.S. per barrel. Natural gas was down 21 cents to 3.53 U.S. Gold was down 22.06 to 32.8698 U.S. an ounce, and silver was down 30 cents to 32.96 U.S. an ounce. Feed wheat is at $8.76 per bushel. Barley is at $6.85. Canola is at $16.25, and corn is at $7.87 per bushel. Live cattle June contract was down $1.20 to $213.92. Feeder cattle August contract was down $2.52 to $295.62. Lean Hog's June contract was up $1.17 to $100.27, and the Canadian dollar was up slightly over the past 24 hours to 72.30 US.
Recapping one of our top stories, Prime Minister Mark Carney faced opposition questions for the first time today in the House of Commons. When opposition House Leader Andrew Scheer raised concerns about the Liberal reluctance to bring in a budget, Carney responded saying Canada's new government is acting immediately to grow this economy. A trucking strike is taking place in Iran, which could paralyze the country's regime. Plus, the U.S. State Department is ramping up the screening process of foreign students. We'll chat with foreign affairs expert Lisa Daftari about that and more coming up next. Also, when you see news happening in your community, be sure to send us an email at info@bridgecitynews.ca. You can also visit our website or YouTube channel anytime to check out more of our stories and interviews. Well, in the U.S. and Canada, we're used to strike action by employees, but in Iran, there's a strike taking place that could potentially paralyze the Iranian regime. Also, if you're planning to travel, make sure you keep one South American country off your list. And foreign students trying to apply for visas to U.S. schools now going through a much more rigorous screening process that includes their social media accounts. So here to chat about it all is, and so much more, is our foreign affairs contributor and editor of the Foreign Desk, Lisa Daftari. Lisa, great to have you back again. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
All right, so Lisa, this is an interesting one. So there's a nationwide trucker strike happening in Iran, and it looks like it has the potential to paralyze their regime. So, it could even have more effect if other sectors of Iran's economy go on strike as well. But we've now got President Trump urging people to support these striking truckers. So, Lisa, how did this all start? It seems to be showing that there's a deep disenchantment among Iranians for their regime, right?
Yes, absolutely. And that's exactly the most important point here to be made, is that this is not just about the truckers. This is not just industry specific. We've seen a lot of protests throughout the last, especially 2 decades, where you have the egg protests over the prices of eggs, you have the pensioners protests, you have teachers protests, and now truck drivers protests, which we've seen one other time. But the reason why it has such an effect is that it's basically a copycat type of society. We know that the majority of the 85 million people who live in Iran are disenchanted with the government. And when they do come out in strikes like this is not just industry specific. It's about the entirety of the system, the entirety of them wanting to demand rights and freedom, and really are protesting their government. Now, they're asking for support from the Western world, and that's especially on the backdrop of Iran nuclear deals happening. Now, it's very interesting that we're seeing Donald Trump support them and asked for people to support them, while at the same time sitting at the negotiating table with their government, trying to strike a nuclear deal. A nuclear deal, in the eyes of the Iranian people, would only throw a lifeline to this regime. It would take them off of the pressure that is currently being put onto the people, onto the government of Iran by the Trump administration. As we know, when he came back into office the second time around, he reinstated his maximum pressure campaign, which he had on the first administration, which really helped to curb at least their terror spending. We saw October 7th happened under the Biden administration because of the money that they were able to bring in. Now, we need to starve the regime so that they don't put money into their terror proxies, so that they don't continue with their nuclear program, so that they don't continue with human rights abuses, as we're seeing the people of Iran tell the world.
You're saying there were strikes before. Is there any fear of retaliation, though?
Absolutely. And I think that is one of the main reasons we haven't seen a more successful movement or revolution. We saw the Green Revolution of 2009 it started as a presidential election, kind of protesting that. Then they came out to be, against the entire regime. Then we saw the Women Life Freedom protests. That was another major one when Mahsa Amini, a 22-year-old, was brutally murdered because she was showing some of her hair underneath her Islamic headscarf. This happens, and then they have those brutal crackdowns. And when you have the crackdowns, it kind of scares people from going back out. But I will say this, 46 years this regime has been in power, and we have seen the protests become more and more bold, more courageous, and the Iranian people saying we will risk our lives in order to show the world that we do not want this regime. So we're seeing it across the country. That's another important point to make. We're seeing it across all socioeconomic brackets. We're seeing it across all types of ethnic backgrounds, all parts of the city, and we're seeing all parts of the country, rather. And it's quite important. I think they're telling the world that this is not just about truckers. It's really about the entirety of the system.
Wow. Okay, looking to another part of the world here. According to Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, Hamas's Gaza chief has been eliminated, is what he's saying, but Israeli military sources are saying that they're not yet able to confirm this death. So, Lisa, can you tell us more about this?
So this news broke a while ago that they believed that they got Sinwar, Mohammed Sinwar, that he was eliminated based on the intel that was given. They knew where he was, and they struck that area up to pinpoint and target him, as the now de facto leader of Hamas. Benjamin Netanyahu came out this morning and said, "I will confirm that this did happen." So it is big news that the prime minister would come out and make such a statement. We're seeing a lot of movement. This war it started on October 7th, 2023. So we're day 600 of this war. There are still hostages being held in Gaza. The war still rages on, and sometimes we see a lot of movement over a certain week, and sometimes we don't see any movement at all. This week there was a lot of movement in terms of aid not getting to the people in Gaza. And again, we have footage that it is not the Israelis withholding the aid, but Hamas withholding the aid. We also have footage I got this morning of Palestinians dancing around and praising Donald Trump and Bibi Netanyahu for getting aid to them. Very interesting. I think it's interesting to see the narrative that is being pushed not only by the West, not only by pro-terror elements, but by the media, whether it's lazy reporting or complicit reporting, where you want to frame the West, you want to frame the UN, you want to frame Netanyahu, you want to frame Donald Trump and say the Europeans, the Americans, the Israelis are not getting food to the Palestinians, but yet it is obviously Hamas that is not letting the food get to the Palestinian people and hoarding it and killing people who are actually trying to approach the truck. So it's very important to note these kind of shifts in the war. Hopefully, we see some kind of public sentiment and global sentiment shift and understand that Hamas has to be eliminated, that the Palestinian people cannot have a future under terror leaders like Hamas, and that the Israelis are in it to win it, to get the hostages back, and of course to eliminate the threats of Hamas.
Mm-hmm. Okay, the U.S. State Department is wrapping up the screening process of foreign students. Lisa, they're now doing mandatory social media checks as part of their vetting process for students applying for visas. And the effort is the latest initiative to crack down on immigration and revoke visas of those attending academic institutions who have publicly supported Hamas. So, Lisa, can you give us more details about this?
Yes. So this is more of that pendulum swinging. We have seen over the last year and a half some crazy activity on college campuses where you would never imagine that this is a kind of prestigious Ivy League, whatever you want to call it, university, a state school, all kinds of universities in the United States and in Canada, where you have students who are there supposedly to get enlightened, to get an education, to have a vocation, to graduate and learn and be open-minded, are actually on campus supporting Hamas, supporting Hezbollah, actually putting on the gear, calling for death to America, calling for death to Israel, burning American flags, burning Israeli flags on U.S. campuses. So Donald Trump comes in and is really tackling this situation, cutting funding, making an example out of schools like Columbia and Harvard, like UPenn, like UCLA, where we are seeing some changes on those campuses. Harvard being the example that is fighting back, that is not making those changes. They got their funding cut. It will continue that way. Now, the applications, they're stopping to look at and review applications to let in these foreign students for visas. Look, again, will good students be punished for this? Absolutely. But their system has to be vetted. The system has to be revamped. There has to be some sort of referendum here where we don't allow these extremists onto our campuses. The other thing I want to point out is if we stop these students from coming, we still have another issue. We still have foreign money coming into these campuses. You will still have foreign influence. They will still find their students, whether it's in Middle Eastern studies programs, in women's studies programs, in journalism school programs. And I speak from experience, from being in these programs and knowing that this is where they find radicalized students and are able to poach them, to give them scholarships, to give them fellowships with the money that's coming in from these foreign actors. Qatar being the #1 foreign sponsor of these programs on U.S. campuses. Look, it comes in as a soft power, as a soft power move. They're giving the money for enlightenment. They're giving the money for scholarships. They're giving the money for endowments. But they have a say. They will censor material. They will make that curriculum anti-American. They will make that curriculum anti-Israel, and that is why we saw those encampments. And there is definitely a correlation. So we have to really study this entire thing and get to the root of it, what the problems are. It's not just the students, it's also the funding, and just to revamp the whole system entirely.
Wow. Okay, so going from academics, let's talk about tourism right now. We're getting kind of into that travel season right now with the summer upon us, but American tourists traveling to Venezuela are being warned by the U.S. government to avoid going to the country, period, or exclamation point, right? So the U.S. has placed the highest level travel advisory, which is level 4. The risks of going to Venezuela include wrongful detention, torture in detention, kidnapping, the list goes on. And if American travelers still want to tempt fate and get into trouble, there's no U.S. consulate in Venezuela to help them. Lisa, I can't imagine anyone would want to go to Venezuela after this warning.
Oh, Jeanette, you would be surprised. We still have Americans wanting to go to Iran, wanting to go to North Korea, wanting to go to Venezuela. Maybe they're even more attracted to the idea of going to some sort of place that is forbidden. I don't know. Remember Adam and Eve from the Bible.
Yes,
So, yes, so forbidden is a draw. Listen, you know, we just got back another American held hostage in Venezuela. This is the government saying we will not negotiate on your behalf. Just don't go. Don't become a pawn. We know, as you read off the list of risks that are associated with going there, you can be abducted. There is terrorism. There are cartels. There are, bad actors, and the government is no bueno. So do not go. Go onto YouTube. You can see a lot of videos about the beauty of the country, and hopefully one day when we see some sort of regime change there, you can go at that point. But there are many other beautiful places to visit in South America, Central America that will do the job.
Yeah, no, certainly. Okay, so Lisa, so far U.S. President Donald Trump has been unsuccessful at directing the end of the war between Russia and Ukraine. And Trump claims in his Truth Social post that if it weren't for him, lots of really bad things would have already happened to Russia. And he's now warning Russian President Vladimir Putin that he's playing with fire. So what are your thoughts on this, Lisa?
So there's already been a response from the Russian side to this post saying, you're saying we're playing with fire? Well, does World War III mean anything to you? So it's a threat that is being responded to with a threat. And of course, they're talking about nuclear weapons being used in this war as well. So look, Donald Trump has said many times that this war wouldn't have happened on his watch, but yet, unfortunately, as much as he has tried, his administration has not been able to stop this war, and it is obviously because of the madman that Putin is. So now Trump is saying, look, we've played the nice way, and you haven't played along, but you're playing with fire, meaning you are absolutely risking a lot by not cooperating with us and ending this war. So now we may not be so nice. So already yesterday, sanctions were announced against Russia. But, I don't know if sanctions are enough to deter this man. We thought that he did want an off-ramp, and that's what Donald Trump kept saying. This guy wants to end the war just as bad as the Ukrainians do. Let's do it. But as we saw over the weekend, it has been horrific. It has gotten even worse. We are seeing an uptick in the number and the severity of the strikes on both sides. Yes, this war has to end. But as Marco Rubio said very, very astutely, he said we have to stop having talks about having talks. So what will be the end result? And I think that the Trump administration is really after results at this point.
Yeah, and speaking of Russia, the International Olympic Committee has confirmed that a ban on Russian teams remains in effect for the 2026 Winter Olympics. The ban was put into place following the military invasion of Ukraine, which began, of course, as we know, in February of 2022. So do you know if individual Russian athletes are allowed to compete, for example, a figure skater?
Right. So, it's unfortunate because as we know, the Russians do very well. They have some great athletes. And this is, sports diplomacy. This is how it works. We have economic diplomacy with sanctions. We have sports diplomacy to ban them. But unfortunately, with a madman like Putin at the helm, the Russian people will only suffer, and not Russia itself. Obviously, this is a bragging right. When your country goes to the Olympics and gets awards, so it is to punish Putin. But Putin doesn't measure his success by Olympic gold medals. Unfortunately, he is more into grabbing land and creating an empire and creating something more for himself and his legacy. So I don't know if this is going to be enough of a deterrence for him, or the sanctions, or anything else, or any of the diplomatic talk or threats that we've seen from Donald Trump in the last few days. But we are working towards, and I guess the international community should really get credit for this, working towards some sort of off-ramp for Putin, the madman.
All right. Lisa Daftari, editor-in-chief of the Foreign Desk. Thanks so much for joining me today. I appreciate it.
Of course, my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Well, every year in Canada, approximately 100,000 abortions take place, which is the equivalent of 10 classrooms of children disappearing each day of the year. Well, that should be of concern to all Canadians. But joining us today from Lethbridge is Dwayne Kaninen-Belt, a board member of Lethbridge and District Pro-Life, as well as Elsie's House. And we also have Simone Hardhorn joining us, and she is a Coaldale Christian student, Coaldale Christian School student, and she's also the president of ARPA Club, which stands for Association for Reformed Political Action. Wow. Good to have you both with us today. Welcome.
Great to be here, Jeanette.
Okay, so why don't we start by mentioning your annual Hike for Life coming up this Saturday, May 31st. Can you share some of the details as to what it is, the start time, where to meet, all the details?
Absolutely. We're very excited. May 31, this week, Saturday. It's our annual Hike for Life. We hold it from 9 a.m. in the morning till noon, and we have it at the Kiwanis Shelter, which is by Henderson Lake. It's a wonderful event. We always get well over 400 people there. We're shooting for 500 this year, and it's for pro-life supporters. We come together. Our theme this year is Let Their Little Lives Shine, but it's really a celebration of life. There's food, there's music, there's games for the kids. We're advertising it as the world's largest birthday party, right? Birthday party. And there's face painting, there's bouncy castles, there's helium balloons, there's piñata, games for the kids, lots of prizes for the adults. And then as well, it's a fundraiser. And so the people that come can just come to support us, but lots of the people donate money, and that money goes towards pro-life education, and it goes towards supporting Elsie's House, a home here in Lethbridge that supports women and families who are in crisis pregnancies. So it should be a wonderful event. Goes from 9 a.m. to noon, and if you have a few minutes or an hour to come join us, we'd love to see you at Henderson Lake.
And it is called a Hike for Life, so it's a walk. Is there a certain number of kilometers that you're looking for?
Absolutely. So the people that come usually go either 5 or 10K around the lake. They either sponsor themselves or get sponsorship to do that. But we're not forcing anybody to walk. Some people walk and do that. Other people just come for the games and entertainment. And so the idea is on either front, we're supporting pro-life, we're celebrating life, and it's just a fun day. Very family friendly. If you've got kids, you want to bring them to this event.
Okay. Well, speaking of hikes or marches, the annual National Canadian March for Life took place on May 8th. So can you give us a bit of a review on how that event went? Was there a large turnout for that?
Another wonderful turnout this year for the March for Life. Now, this is an organization that's much larger than Lethbridge Pro-Life. It works with organizations across Canada. And so these events happen, of course, in Ottawa, but in every province. We had a very large one in Edmonton. Thousands of people come out to show their solidarity for life, that they believe all people have value. There are speakers, there are banquets, there are events. It's attended by thousands. It's a wonderful event and very encouraging to everyone that's involved. What's special about it is people from all walks of life, many different backgrounds, many different faiths, even people who don't have a faith background, come together because they recognize the value of life. It's a great event.
Wow. We heard that a lot of young people turned up for that. Are we seeing an increase in young people in the pro-life movement?
Yeah, I think we are seeing an increase in youth awareness and activity in the pro-life movement. I think part of that is we live in a day and age where social justice is taught and promoted. And when young people start realizing that we do need justice for all, that all humans should have equal rights from the moment of conception until natural death, they're willing to stand for that. And so this has been very helpful to the pro-life movement, that people are willing to stand up, make their voice heard, and stand for what they believe. So it's a wonderful thing to see, but we have more and more young people involved in the pro-life movement.
And speaking of young people, we have Simone there sitting next to you. Simone, hello. Now, I understand you're the president of the ARPA club or ARPA club in your school. So maybe tell us what that's all about.
Yeah, so we have over 50 high school students in the ARPA club. So that's almost our entire high school. We've done lots of activism activities, both in our school and in our community. At the beginning of the year, we took the ARPA club to Neerlandia for the Alberta Youth ARPA Conference. And throughout the year, we've done lots of other things. We've sent Christmas cards to MPs. We had an ARPA breakfast event. We had a apologetics night where students from our ARPA club taught our parents apologetics. We hope to help out at the Hike for Life this coming Saturday, and we've hosted a Life Day here. So.
Okay, so Life Day, can you maybe share a bit about what the Life Day event was that recently took place there at your school?
Yeah, so we involved our entire school, both the elementary, junior, and senior high, and all of our staff. We gave out T-shirts to our junior high and senior high students, as well as all of our staff. And our theme this year was the same as the Hike for Life, so that everyone deserves a birthday. So it was a really big celebration of life. We had a lot of birthday-themed activities, face painting, balloons, musical chairs, just a lot of things that are going to be at the Hike for Life this week too.
Simone, what's been your experience like with other kids your age outside of your school?
So we're seeing a lot of ARPA clubs in other Christian schools. We're seeing them expand. We're seeing many start up, but we're also seeing a lot of youth indifference. A lot of youth are not being taught the pro-life movement. And so a lot of them don't really care. They don't really have an opinion, and we're trying to combat that.
Yeah, I was going to ask, how do most teens view abortion? What's their awareness level like?
So yeah, we're seeing different opinions, especially depending on the culture that they're in. Sadly, we're seeing a trend where a lot of males feel that they are not allowed to have a voice because they are told that it is not their body, so they are not allowed to have an opinion on the pro-life movement. So that's sad to see. But we're seeing a lot of youth standing up for the pro-life movement and standing up for life.
So what made you want to, step up and be club president?
So my mother has been involved in this kind of thing, and I've just loved the politics side of the pro-life movement, and so I've just always been interested in doing something like this.
Interesting. Okay, Dwayne, where are we at in Canada right now? Are attitudes towards abortion changing, or are they remaining the same? What are you seeing?
Well, that's a really hard question to answer. If you look at a lot of the surveys that are done recently, they'll often use questions like, do you support a woman's right to choose? Or are you in favor of taking away women's health care? Those are the types of questions that we see. And then, of course, they always get the answers that they want. But if you say to Canadians today, do you believe in sex-selective abortion, that they can be done when parents want to select the sex of their unborn child? or if you ask them if they're in favor of late-term abortions. Well, then we see that the majority of Canadians would clearly be in favor of that type of legislation. And so if you want to gauge that, I guess it would depend on the question that you have, but we're certainly excited about the movement and how it's growing in young people and across age groups here in Canada.
Okay, so when you're saying most Canadians would be in favor of that legislation, you mean they'd be against the legislation that's for late term or for this?
Yeah, most Canadians, all the surveys show that most Canadians do not support late-term abortion, and they do not support sex-selective abortions.
Okay, interesting. What do you think are some of the major roadblocks that hinder maybe a change of hearts and minds on this issue?
Yeah, well, I think Simone touched on one big one in that a lot of our youth and a lot of even our university, college-age students are never presented with a pro-life view, and they've been fairly indoctrinated in the pro-choice position. But if I had to say one thing that's a roadblock right now, even looking at our recent election here in Canada, all of the main parties, whether they are NDP, Liberal, or even Conservatives, they've all kind of gotten on the same page that if you want to put your name on the ballot, you basically have to swear on a stack of Bibles that you will never bring a bill forward and you will never make this an issue and that this is a settled matter. And then to add to that, we have the national media going across Canada policing that view. And if there's ever a candidate that's foolish enough to talk about pro-life or mention it, well, it's a national news story and the media is calling that this person stepped down. So when you have all of your major parties taking that stand and the media controlling it, that's a major roadblock. Now, thankfully, we have other parties here in Canada that allow MPs to have freedom in speech and conscience and to represent their communities. But we also have a lot of Canadians that are engaged at a personal level and not at a national level.
It is a real personal issue for sure. No matter what side of it is on, it can be very touchy. I think that's why politicians sometimes don't want to touch it. They don't want to tell people what to do, how to live their lives or what to do with their bodies in that sense, I think. But what can viewers do to help bring about change in this area?
Sure. Well, one of the things they can do is to combat that idea is recognizing that while abortion might be a personal or a emotional issue, it's not a morally difficult issue, right? If the unborn is human, we need to do everything in our power to protect it. And it has nothing to do with privacy. It has nothing to do with our personal autonomy. It has to do with the rights of all. If people are passionate about pro-life, and we have many, right, hundreds that are going to come out on Saturday to support us, but if there's others, certainly they could become involved with Lethbridge Pro-Life or volunteer at Elsie's House. They could support the Crisis Pregnancy Care Center. We have a wonderful organization getting going here in Lethbridge called Safe Families that, provides homes for people in difficult situations. And so there's many ways you could kind of get involved formally. But more importantly, we need pro-life people to talk to their neighbors, to talk to their friends, to talk to their families. We're not relying on the government to change the hearts of Canadians. We're not waiting for the current party to do something. We're going to change the hearts and minds of people one by one. And we'll pray that the Holy Spirit works in people, that they come to Christ and they know the value of people. And so if you can individually say that, you believe that the unborn are human and that they have value, by sharing that with people, you can make a huge impact on the people that surround you in your life.
Dwayne, right at the top there, you mentioned Elsie's House. So, and you are very involved in that. So can you maybe give us a little brief snapshot of what Elsie's House is, why it's worthwhile to support that project?
Sure. Elsie's House is, as I said, it's a home that women who are in crisis pregnancies can go, and they stay there during their pregnancy. They receive training on finances, on parenting. They get counseling. They get helped with their medical situations. They're helped with the personal things that they're dealing with. And we're trying to prepare these young mothers for motherhood. And so they come, it's not necessarily just subsidized housing. It provides them with these programs. And then when the baby is born, we help them with that baby. We had a wonderful news that a baby was just born this weekend to one of the ladies in Elsie's house. So just a huge blessing for us to see that. But we want to come alongside these ladies, and we want to show them that there are people that love them and support them and will be there with them. There is a huge housing crisis in Lethbridge. And so a lot of times these people who face these situations have no place to go. And so we're trying to provide a place for them to be. And I should say that we've had great response to this. Pro-choice, pro-life, it doesn't matter. Everyone agrees that if they want to keep the baby, we want it to be as good as possible. So we have wonderful support from our local and provincial government. We work with all different organizations. We're all working together to make that happen. And we need your support because it's growing. There's a huge demand for this. So we're hoping to expand our footprint there and have more opportunities for more people to benefit from this program.
Yeah, what a worthwhile cause that Elsie's House is, my goodness. And like you were saying, I think people on both sides could totally get on board because a lot of those issues are the very reasons that somebody might feel that they can't bring a pregnancy to term, or they might be afraid because they don't have the money, they don't have housing, maybe they have food insecurity, housing insecurity. So what a fantastic cause Elsie's House is. Dwayne, maybe remind our viewers again about the annual Hike for Life coming up this Saturday, May 31st at Henderson Park.
Sure. Well, thanks again, Jeanette, for having us on. It's wonderful to be able to share this with people. Yeah, we'd love to see you out there. An exciting event. This week, Saturday, starts at 9 a.m. That's the official kickoff, but you can come anytime between 9 and 12. Bring your kids, bring your grandchildren, bring your nieces and nephews. Come on out, support life, and participate in the world's largest birthday party.
Sounds like fun. Thank you both so much for sharing with us today. Appreciate having you both on today.
Thank you.
Dwayne Kneinenbelt is with the Lethbridge and District Pro-Life Association, and Simone Harthorn is the president of the Coaldale Christian School ARPA, or ARPA Club. Great to have both of them on with us today. I'm Jeanette Roche on behalf of all of us here at Bridge City News. Thanks so much for watching.